is my screen right now. So please, if you cannot see my screen, please let me know. Please, can we all see my screen?
Yes. Can you expand
No,
it?
I can't see your screen, I can't see it here.
Can you expand it?
I can't see it myself.
Okay, I'm expanding it right now. So, all right. So, can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it. Please, can you remove every other person from the screen and then let only your slide be on the screen?
Not to do any occasion. I think it
So-
was
I can't. Maybe because I'm using my phone, I can't see.
Okay, I'm
Can
going
you
to make
can
it.
you hello
make it-
hello
Are you
presenter?
seeing? Yes.
Yes.
I'm with you.
And then can you clear the desktop and let only your screen be on the desktop?
Okay, I'll do that now. Okay, check if you can see it now.
Yeah, I can see it.
Nah, can't.
Can you
Alright.
see it now?
Yes, I can
No,
see it.
some people are using their phone. If you are using your phone, it will be
I can see
difficult
it.
for us to see. People that are using
Okay,
your
but
phone.
even with your phone, you
It's
should.
only on laptop it can be open.
But with your
Okay,
I
those
your
of
wish
us
you,
with
I
phones.
wish you remove everybody and just allow only the screen to show. So that the names
that
and
one now. What you need
features of
from your end. From your end now, what you need to do is just click on my own. Click on the screen I'm showing. Just click on it, let it expand. It's now you that will do that one on your own end. So just click on the screen, click on my side, and you'll see everything to expand. Just click on it. So if you have you clicked on it, please, everyone.
there is not showing now there.
It's still showing only. It's showing everybody's deck at the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
show
can
everybody there on
see.
deck.
Okay. But can you try and click my screen alone? Can you try and just click only my screen
That's
so
what I've
that
been
it
doing.
will
I'm not.
Can you do that?
Okay.
That's what I've been. That's what I've been clicking. I'm not. Now it's not responding.
It's not responding.
Those of us with phones, we can't see. We can't
can't
even
see.
when we click, we can't see.
Do this. This is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make it. All right. Let me try and make it bigger. I'm going to make.
Bomb flush now.
Okay. Hold on. Let me make it big. Please mute your mic. So mute your mics. That way people can join. Okay. Okay. Please, I want to know if you can see properly.
Yeah,
Can you see?
it can show. It can show later on. Okay. It now show the page.
Okay. Is
Show
it
the
on
page, the
now?
app page. Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's manageable now.
Okay. All right. So let's quickly start. This is just the typical on this screen here. You can see the typical CSPS proposal template that we all know and we have been using. So I'll simply explain because there are people from different departments at different levels here studying on different studying at different programs, studying in different programs, both in CSPS and different schools. So I'll be explaining generally, so you can apply it to your personal, maybe to your own programs. Okay, right here we are using this proposal. If you're not in CSPS, you can understand that this is just a typical template that is given for any kind of research. You can apply to your school as well or your program, wherever you're having it. All right. So this is just a template that we'll be using. So right now we're going to just go straight to the point. From experience, where exactly do questions come from? I'll touch it, then I'll touch the proposal. I've been touching how to write a proposal for a while. So let me touch this defense side. I'm just going to list 7 of them. Like I said, number 1 is definitely your research problem. Please, your research problem. I'll come back. All right. So the research problem and the statement of problem, they are quite different. Please, let's note it. Your research problem and your statement of problem is different. Let me say it again. Your research problem and your statement of problem is different. For some of us that are writing on our own, your research problem is different. Now, according to the CESPES format here, it says that state the exact problem, challenges, opportunities, issues you are addressing. For instance, now, if you, let's say you are looking at the special distribution of spatial or spatial, anyone can do. Let's say what the topic I'm examining is the spatial distribution of, let's say, wheelbarrow pushers in Imo State. We're looking at the what are you trying to solve with a topic like that? Why are you looking at wheelbarrow pushers in Imo State or Lagos? Or you're looking at the spatial distribution of widows. How exactly are they distributed? Or you're looking at the spatial distribution of, let's say, of patients in a general hospital. Now, the whole research problem is exactly what you are solving in the society. What cost you? What made you become motivated to do this research? There's difference between your research problem and statement of problem. Let me tell you the difference now. According to the CESPES and by experience, you're not going to say this I'm about to say now in this format, but this is what I've seen over time. Your research problem is supposed to be in the main research, that's your thesis. But you see this thing they wrote here, statement of problem. Research problem is supposed to be statement of problem. Let me say it again. According to CESPES, they wrote here is research problem. But no, it is supposed to be statement of problem since it is still your proposal. I don't know why, but this is exactly what I've noticed from supervisors. Multiple, after working over time, I've noticed that supervisors prefer that you write statement of problem instead of research problem for proposal. Then in your main work, when you are now doing your proper chapter 1, you can now write research problem or statement of problem as the case may be. So this is a very key issue. This is a very key place. If you notice, if you write research problem, they're going to correct you. This is with experience, I'm telling you. So now back to what I was saying, that your research problem or statement of problem is a key place. What is the motivating factor? Now, this place now is where you talk about what exactly made you, what inspired you to take this issue up as against the other issues you must have noticed. Why did you take this one up? What did you notice in research that made you to take it up? What did you notice in your area? How did it affect you? If you're looking at, let's say, you're looking at how exactly is something like this. What do I use as an example now? Let's say this money that they're sharing to poor and needy homes in Nigeria. That is your research. So you're supposed to bring it home and say, okay, the Tinubu government has shared so and so amount of money, and this money is not impacting the economy. Or they say, well, they've removed subsidy. This thing now is not impacting. We're not seeing it. Then you support that problem that you have discovered with appropriate references, appropriate research. So that is number one place that the issues come. So I'm going to just open a typical research problem so that you understand what I'm saying in case you don't understand what I'm saying. So this is what I mean. So this number one place where we're always having questions come from is your research problem or statement of a problem. So I'm just going to open a typical. This is a typical proposal. So a typical problem proposal is spatial and social inequalities in flood risk awareness and response in Asaba. All right. So now the most times most people know what the introduction and background of study is, but they don't know what they'll ask you. What is the problem you're trying to solve? So if you notice here now, this person brought his own problem home. He had to talk about that flooding has become recurrent in Asaba, Delta State, due to the rapid urban expansion, poor infrastructure, and also it has influenced the spatial location and social characteristics such as income. So it's more advised that you bring it home. You can start your statement of problem with maybe with research, maybe references, or this person has said it, but it is advised for the first paragraph of your statement of problem that you start with a problem that it affects you personally. It makes it's better you make it personal. If you're looking at, let's say, the influence of, let's say, of WHO funding in the actual lives of Nigerians, or the influence of World Bank funding in the lives of people in maybe let's use Lagos State, or the effect of NDDC funds on the social economic, make sure that you mention something that is a pain in the community. For instance, now let's say you're doing something about pipeline. Let's give an example. You're doing something about pipeline and the effect of crude oil spillage. In your research problem, you should mention that especially the first paragraph of your research problem or your statement of problem, you should mention how it affects the communities. Communities are having bad water. That is the first thing that's the first thing you should stress on. And this is the reason why a lot of people, they will tell you your research problem is not defined properly. This thing I'm telling you is after a lot of time correcting a lot of work, I can tell you this is number one problem when it comes to writing a research problem and statement of problem. So first of all, bring it home. After writing a lot in your background of study, you can see the background of study is very long. You've done all the research, no problem. But whenever you come to research problem, don't go straight and start using some if I in 2025 et al. Said this. No, the first paragraph should definitely bring it down to the problem you're solving in society first, the problem that is the main pain. Then from there, you can, it's like how you see here in the second paragraph, you can back it up with research. You can now say, because you have noticed this, then this so and so, it also aligns with the research from so and so, going forward. You understand? That is the number one thing. So when you're asked, for instance, if my supervisor, or if I'm before an external board, and they ask me what is the research problem, don't think of who you quote. Just first of all, tell them, okay, if you're doing something of NNPC or pipeline, you can say, okay, I noticed, or the researcher noticed that several communities in the riverine areas, the fish there is reducing. Make it personal. This is what makes you confident. When you have made it very personal, it gives you confidence. But if you just, I will never recommend you to go and cram the research problem in your work. That's what I tell my students. Don't cram the research problem inside the work and carry it. Maybe you read it and read it. No. First of all, ask yourself personally, if I was living, or if I am in this affected area, how will this topic affect me? That is the first paragraph. So when you have that in your mind, even if you're very tired and somebody asks you, what's the statement of problem for your research? You're going to offhead. You already know how it affects you. You state it immediately. So that gives you an edge over somebody that crammed and wants just going there to just pour out what he or she has crammed. So that is the number one. So we have tackled the research problem. That's the number one place where students often fail, from my experience, when they come to their proposal defense. All right. So after the research problem, the aim and objectives usually Another thing about the second place is actually the aim and objectives. These aim and objectives normally, objectives are not hard because most likely most people don't know they already have defined their objectives. But where people have issues with objectives is when your objectives are not derived from your variables. Let me give an instance. Let me give an instance now. This is the topic that we're using here. We're using assessing spatial and social inequalities in flood risk awareness and response in Asaba. Now you can see the variables here. We're looking at different flood risk awareness is a variable. We're looking at spatial and social inequality. Those are two variables there. Spatial inequality, social inequality. They are two in one variables. Flood risk awareness is a variable. Response is a variable. So now, whatever you're doing in your objectives must have direct correlation with your variables study. So from here now, you can look at this. What they mentioned here is two variables. They're looking at spatial distribution, then flood risk awareness. That's the first variable, first objective. Second one is social factors. Then now we're not talking about social factors. We're not talking then from there now we go to flood hazards, which is still in line with flood risk awareness. So essentially, all your variables all your objectives must come from your variables directly, so that way, whatever you're doing, especially your conceptual review, you can be able to derive the different variables directly from the objectives and discuss in your conceptual review. From there, you can generate your conceptual framework. I'll explain that one later on, but just understand that your objectives should be as a result of the variables. Variables means the keywords that are in your variables means the keywords that are in your topic, the different keywords. So that's the second place people usually have issues, their objectives of study. Okay, so I want to explain this later on. There's something else I will explain after I'm done with listing the 7 different issues we have. So this one now, this is the one that you can say you can cram it or you can learn it. You can learn it. I think some time ago, I had a supervisor that had to almost cancel a topic because the objectives of study were not derived from the variables. So if that student had gone far and maybe let's say something about this now. Let's give an instance. This assessing spatial and social inequalities in flood risk awareness, and the person's objectives of study, one of them has nothing to do with social inequality, has nothing to do with spatial inequality, has nothing to do with flood risk awareness and response. It has nothing to do with this, but it's just an objective. So please mute your mic, please. So it's well advised that even now that you've started your work, go through your objectives, make sure that they are derived, because this is the foundation. They might ask you to redo your work if your objectives are not derived from your variables of study. So this is very, very important. Very, very important. So then then another place that people usually have issues is the difference between significance of study and justification. Significance of study and as well as this one doesn't have justification. So I want to throw it open. To everybody, to somebody here. I want somebody to answer this one now. What's the difference between significance of study and the justification of study, please? Somebody should answer this before I go in. What's the difference between significance of study and the justification? Please, if you know, you can just help us and unmute your mic. It's an interactive class, so we can help others that I want to hear from somebody, please. What's the difference, please? Please go ahead. It's not anybody can talk. What is the difference between significance of study, your chapter 1, with this justification of the study? Anybody can answer. Please go ahead and answer. I know I have I have professors.
Hello.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Significance is just like the
Please
importance.
introduce yourself. Introduce yourself so others can get to know you.
Hello, my name is Ada.
Okay.
The significance is just like the importance of the study, while justification is like the reason why you are writing on that particular
Okay.
topic.
Okay.
The
Significance
importance
is the
and the reason.
okay. Then the justification is the reason. So what's the difference
Yes.
between justification and the statement of problem?
Justification.
Yes, and statement of problem. This you
It's just
said
a state.
justification is the reason. So
Mm.
what is the difference between it and the research problem and statement of problem?
I will have to digest this one before I can come up with a
Okay.
good
No, it's a
answer.
good you answered correctly, but go ahead. I want to hear you. Go ahead.
I will have to digest
Somebody
it a
spoke. Go
little.
ahead.
Let me.
Hello, good evening.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes,
Yes,
my
good evening.
name is Ife Iwanzu.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello? Okay. So when we are talking about significance of the studies,
Okay.
we are actually trying to write on, as you rightly say, importance, the usefulness, the areas the study will be useful to. Are you
Yes, yes,
addressing maybe like the topic that you gave to us? Which
yes,
particular sector will this research be useful? Is it going to be in
yes,
the education, or is it going to be in politics? Are they going to be used by market women or librarians? That's when we look
yes.
at the significance.
Good. Exactly. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So in the she rightly said, in the case of the whichever one I was talking about, the
Yes,
justification deals mostly with the reasons behind our research. Why am I
okay,
writing the research? That's the way you can say so. Thank you.
okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we all hear me, please? Can we all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear you.
we can hear you very
Okay.
well. We can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I think she has answered the areas. That's what I wanted to point out. The reasons, the significance is the areas. Let me give you an instance now. If as a mother in the house, you say, I want us to pray by 9 p.m. Yes. You say, I want us to pray by 9 p.m. every day, and you bring it home, and your husband asks you, please, what is the research problem? Why are you praying by 9 p.m. every day? Why didn't you what's happened that you say, okay, the problem is I've noticed that we're falling sick so much. Sorry if you're not religious here, I'm just giving an example. But this is just a simple analogy to help us understand. If you say now, let's say the topic of what you want to do is you want to introduce prayer into your home every 9 p.m. Everybody at home should pray. And they ask you, okay, what's the problem that is making you do this? You say, okay, I'm noticing that we are falling sick so much and I want us to pray about it. That is the problem. Now, the significance of problem for that now, the significance of the study now is you say, okay, if we make this prayer now and we decide to start making this prayer, as a result of it, in our, at least academically, God will answer your prayer and you become to perform well academically. God will answer you all. From there, you can also learn how to pray in the open. I'm just using it as an example. From there, you can say, okay, from there, you can have good health. These are different areas. From there, you can also learn the scriptures, how to read the Bible. These are those different areas that topic of prayer is significant in. 3, you become less susceptible to attack from the devil. That is the significance. Then the justification of study, the reason why you're doing this is you're doing it now to prevent sickness from coming in. You see the difference between justification and the problem. Justification, you are preventing so and so from coming in, and is to have long life, is to do this. That's the reason for it. So even if you don't understand anything we have said in this class, just know the research problem is that thing that touches you personally, that made you to take up the research. Significance of the study are the areas that research, if you solve it, after you solve it, it will impact it. Then the justification is the reason why you need to do it in these certain areas and these areas. Why do you need to do it here? Why do you need to do it there? So that's the very, very, thank you very much for everyone that joined. So we're going to go on. Please just grab that. That's very, very important. So quickly, we don't have time anymore. So our scope usually is not an issue because they might ask you what is your scope. Okay, let me just touch it a little. I wanted to go to the literature review where we can now talk about our we can now talk about the gap that we are trying to bridge, because they usually touch the literature review. Most times I've noticed they don't usually have issues with the literature review. It's mostly when you talk about your gap, what is the gap you're trying to solve. That's the literature, that's your research gap. What is research gap? So, but before I go there, let me quickly touch on the scope of study. Now, I've noticed something. I have corrected this amongst my students. I've also corrected, I think I've said it in one of the classes here, that your scope of study is just the limitation. Your scope of study is the limitation of within which you are carrying out that research. It can be location based. Your scope just needs, it's just like, let's say we're talking about prayer now in the house. If you say you're doing a topic on prayer, you need to limit it and say, this prayer, we're going to do it in the house at 9 p.m. The prayer is not going to be done every day. It's going to be done on Wednesday, 9 p.m. It's going to be done in the house. You see, the location has been defined, your house. The time has been defined, 9 p.m., as well as the day, that is Wednesday. So now the same way I'm using it as an example to define what a scope is. A scope now, we're talking about where exactly you want to carry out that research. That's what I mean by 9 p.m. and the rest. So your scope now needs to define exactly where you are carrying out the research, how you are carrying out the research, and with what. That's simply all these geographically, thematically, all those ones are English. Your scope of study is where you're carrying out the research, how you're carrying out the research, and with what. Are you using mixed methods? Are you using questionnaires? Are you using survey? Are you using just whatever? Are you using secondary data? Are you using primary data? Are you using qualitative? Are you using quantitative data? That is the how. Then the what you use now is now where you now talk about the what the instrument you want to use. Are you going to collect data online? Are you going to use questionnaire? Do you understand? Then finally, we're talking about the final point is actually the okay, I've talked about where, I've talked about how, where, okay, where, that's what I've talked about. I've not talked about You see here that the where is Asaba. If you can see my screen, you can see that I've highlighted Asaba here, because that is where this research is limited to. This research now is limited to Asaba Delta State. It will not, it's also from your scope of study that you write your limitation. So your scope of study is limited to Asaba Delta State. It's limited here to urban and peri-urban. So if, let's say, you are doing a topic like the effect of roadside food in the socioeconomic or in the socioeconomic in the economic life of students or something like that. Now you have to limit that study. You have to find a certain scope of where do you want to carry it out. Even if you say the life of students, which school? Is it FUTO? Is it FUPRE? Is it UNN? Is it Harvard? Where? You have to define it in your scope of study. Then, with what you want to use to carry out that research, I usually go to with how first. How do you want to carry it? So, how here is now talking about, you see here, I think from here, they're looking at, okay, I think the how should be the spatially to target a cross-section areas. Emphasis should be placed temporarily. I don't even like this scope because it's not clear. I like very clear scopes. Okay, how? This one is not really clear the way I like it. What I will have written, if I'm changing this scope of study, I'll write how exactly. How means if I'm going to be using qualitative data, quantitative data, primary, secondary. You understand how I'm going to carry it? Is it qualitative? Am I going to be looking at interviews? Is it quantitative? Am I going to be using questionnaires? So it's very important to define this in your scope of study. That's exactly what the scope is. Don't forget it. If you can't remember anything, remember the scope of study is how your research will be carried out, where it will be carried out, and with what. Please don't forget. So let's quickly go to, before I leave this chapter 1, do we have any questions? Before we go on, we have talked about 3 things here. We've talked about the scope, we've talked about the significant, we've talked about the aim and objectives, and we've also talked about the research problem. So I'm about to enter chapter 2. So please, if you have any questions, this is the right time for chapter 1 before we just touch briefly chapter 2. Then before we enter the final cocoa. The final cocoa is the chapter 3, where you now talk about the methodology. That's where they will ask you different questions. That one is where we're going to. So please, before we go on, please, if you have any questions, please go ahead and unmute your mic and ask.
Hello, good evening.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, class.
Yes, go ahead.
Please, my question is, some of the supervisors in the templates, I noticed that there is no hypothesis highlighted there. For some of the lecturers, I was thinking of hypothesis, that there's no how you write a proposal, a project without hypothesis. What do we do about that?
Okay, that's a very good question. That's why we have this class, because part of the reason why I had to have this class is because what is written in the proposal is not what a lot of supervisors are expecting. Some of them are from different schools. You need to understand, our supervisors here some of them are from different colleges and schools, chosen all over. They're not from one defined department. Some of them are in different departments, and they have different ways of writing. They might be similar at first if you're on the surface, but they're actually different. So as regards to that, the hypothesis depends on your supervisor. First of all, give him what the suspect format says. If he says he wants the hypothesis, you can look at your objective 2 and 3 and generate your hypothesis. It's not hard. You can look at the objective M, so the research question 2 and 3 or the objective 2 and 3, and generate a hypothesis and send. Your supervisor is king. Do anything you can do to make sure your supervisor is happy. If your supervisor says you should delete chapter 1, delete it. He's the one that defines, he's the one that determines what says and what goes. So that's what I will advise. So even if they say the suspect format, some of them will tell you that you should follow the suspect format strictly. Please follow it strictly. If you notice that they are also telling you that you should please use something different, use it. After all, very soon your program will be over and you go your way. Your own is to satisfy the supervisor and get your A and go on. So do we have any other question, please? Or we can go ahead. Okay. So this is what I was saying. The scope of study, look at this one now. You can see the scope of study here is defined by where, geographical. I hope, can we all see my screen, please, before I go ahead? Is the screen clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. So you can see here that is geographical scope. That is what I was talking about. I think the other scope, it needs to be rewritten. So the geographical scope, where this one now is which people, that's demographic, the demographic scope, and the conceptual scope, technology. All this one is still just, everything is still within that ambit of, still within the ambit of where, how, and what. So you don't need to cram all these things. Just have where, I'll do it, how, and what with what the instruments you use. So quickly, let's go to our chapter 2, the literature review. The literature review carries typically the conceptual review, the theoretical framework, the conceptual framework, the empirical review. So I think this work did not have a conceptual review because of the, like we said, the supervisor is king. If your supervisor says remove conceptual review, remove it. So this one doesn't have, but typically, a typical literature review should start with 2.1 conceptual framework. Those ones don't usually have issues when it comes to defense, because I've noticed over time that over the years, most lecturers don't really, or most supervisors, or most supervisors do not check your conceptual review that much. They will just tell you it's not long enough. Most of them will tell you that it's not long enough. So now, where we usually have issues is your conceptual framework. Your conceptual framework. So this is your conceptual framework here. So your conceptual framework is just the different concepts you have examined from the variables of the work. How do they relate and what are you using them? Now, the conceptual framework ties in the concepts in your work as well as the theory that you're using. Like your theoretical review here, from here you can see the theoretical review. Theoretical framework here is social cognitive theory and drug prevention. So you tie it down with the concepts you are using. So because this person did not require conceptual review, I didn't put it here. So, but typically you're supposed to use all these concepts: peer interaction, digital literacy, social learning. You're supposed to find a way, or you're supposed to tie it together in your conceptual framework, along as guided by research, already done research. So this conceptual framework is usually synthesized from already done research. If you look at, let's say this, like from here now, it's noted that Orji et al. 2019, Chavez 2024, Joko et al. 2022, they have done work like this. They've already done something similar to this work. So all the writer needed to do, or all the student needed to do, is to go back, compare and contrast, and develop a personal. You can either use a similar or you can develop a unique conceptual framework, but everything that you're doing must still be in line with your topic, and it should have the given goal or research of the research. It should have the goal. That's what is important in the conceptual framework, is that the goal of the research is achieved. That is the purpose of the conceptual framework. So you may or may not require having a conceptual framework at this level, because it's just dependent on the supervisor. The conceptual framework is in the CSPS format, but some supervisors will tell you to remove it. From what my experience, they will tell you there's no need for conceptual framework. Just go from your theoretical framework to your empirical review. You understand? So if it comes up, just understand that you are going to synthesize it. You must have synthesized it from the concepts, the variables. Remember, I mentioned variables in chapter 1. You synthesize it with the concepts and tie it down. All the concepts, you key it together to be able to give you the required results that you're expecting from the research. So just this is where you have to read your conceptual framework. You need to read it and understand it very well. So then the most important part that I wanted to go to, where that's the number 4 issue that we usually have with defense. What's your conceptual framework? And most people don't know. So if you want to read, start from your research problem, define your research problem, define your aim and objective properly from the variables. Then number 3 is your scope, the scope of study. Number 4 now is, we're now talking about this conceptual framework. So number 5 here, 6 and 7 is chapter 3. So number 5 is your research gap. That's number 5. Okay, this work did not have research gap. Let me try and get one that has research gap. That way we can be better up. Okay. All right, so let's go to the research gap of this study. The research gap table. Okay, so typically your research gap is just after all the empirical review, after examining everything in your empirical review, you have finished examining and reviewing the different research. The empirical review should contain the name of the, let me give you an instance now. Your empirical review of any study should contain, why am I having all this research I don't have complete? Sorry, 1 minute, let me get a proper research here. Okay. Let me just use this because I don't know why I did not put it. So I was talking about your empirical review here. So your empirical review should have this. That one they won't ask you, but just know this. Empirical review should have the topic, the authors, the study topic, the author, the number of research questions, the study design, the study population, the sample, and the sampling technique, the instruments, the data analysis, and medical recommendations. This one is not important in terms of the defense. They won't ask you this. But why I'm bringing it up is that after you've done this, you're supposed to synthesize the gap. Each of the problems you have reviewed, each of the research you have reviewed, let's say Obi and Ada et al. 2024 did a certain topic and they did a certain research and they did it in such a way. They found out so and so. Now, you must find out in your research gap, what exactly did they do what did they do in there? What did they not do? What is the part they left out? For instance, if Obi and Ada et al. 2025 did spatial distribution of, if they did a spatial distribution of, or let's say they did, let me use this topic now, let's say design of socially driven applications for enhancing drug abuse awareness and prevention. amongst adolescents in selecting urban and rural areas in Imo State. And your own is maybe you're doing it in another state like Lagos State. So you define in your research gap that they did this, so their finding was that so and so happened. But the gap you're trying to fill in that research is that they did it in Imo State and they did not tie it down to Lagos State. So this as the same way, it's just like having, maybe let's say, I will go back to the example I used on prayer. You want to, if you say now on the topic, let's say your topic is prayer, what exactly is the research gap that you are trying to fill? You can say, okay, so and so researched on prayer, but they only talked about researching prayer based on the Holy Ghost. Another person researched on prayer, but the person talked about researching on prayer on another side. Or the person talked about researching on prayer on Assemblies of God, but me, I go to the Catholic Church. You just define, you're looking for the areas that were skipped in the different reviews of the research that you've done. So I don't know why, I think I made a mistake. I did not add a file that had a complete, so that I can give you a direct, but I think I can get it from here. Maybe let's go to the research gap. Yeah, I will still go to the Gantt study. And also another thing you should know is the research gap itself is not even, they didn't even put it in a suspect format. The research gap is not here. I don't think it is here. Please, did anybody see research gap here? Please speak up so that we can know, because I didn't see it. But I've noticed over time, after I've experienced, because of experience, I've noticed they will always ask you for the research gap table. So research gap table should have the review, at least minimum of 5. That's for your proposal. Minimum of 5 different research that different related research that you've reviewed, the findings as well as the gaps that you're going to find. So just give me a minute. Let me just look for one of the projects and as well as attach it here, so that we can understand what the research gap table. So when they ask you now, what's the gap you are supposed to solve? What's the gap you are supposed to fill in? You can clearly define it that this is what I'm about to fill in with this. So just give me 1 minute. Send. So if you have any questions, this is actually just right now we're almost done with the class. So before we end the class, you can start asking your questions while I send this quickly. All right, so I believe we don't have any. So do we have any questions? Is anybody confused on anything at all at this point? Before we go to, because I can't find the file that I'm looking for. I can't find it here. So I'm just going to quickly go to the methodology before we end this class. It's already 9 o'clock. All right. So I've talked about 5 things now. I've talked about the research problem or statement of problem. This is where you need to focus on for your proposal. That is what you need to focus on. Your statement of problem, the objectives. We talked about a little bit about the difference between significance, justification, as well as research problem. So just focus on those. Then the scope, where, how, and what. Remember that we talked about the gap, research gap now. So the 2 remaining now is in the methodology. So quickly go to the methodology. I think in the next class, or if you still have any kind of issue, you can reach out to me. So the methodology now, this is the main. This is where a lot of people get confused. What are you using to do your work? What method are you using to do your work? Are you using qualitative? Are you using quantitative? Let me first explain. Qualitative method of research means you are looking at what's the English I will use to explain this, so that will be very easy for everybody to understand. Qualitative data. You're gathering, you're using qualitative data. You're collecting opinions, or I don't want to use opinions. You're collecting, you're basing your assertions, or you're collecting data that is not countable. Somebody is trying to tell you now, let's say you're doing a research. You're doing a research that has to do with how many times those, or how effective is NEPA in your area? How effective is NEPA in your area? Or how effective is power holding, PHED or EEDC, or depending on the area you are in. If you're going to use qualitative data to collect that, qualitative data now, you now ask each of the households in that area, okay, what's the effect of this what's the effect of this NEPA, or what is the effect of the power holding company in my area? What is the effect in your household? That's why you talk about qualitative. But quantitative is where you're counting. That is where you're counting. That's where you're not talking about how many times did they bring light. They will now count. They bring light 4 hours, 3 hours. That one has to do with numbers. Anything that has to do with numbers, that's where you're talking about quantitative, quantity. So I know most of us here know it, but I'm reminding some of us that it's been long we've heard this kind of thing. So that's what you're talking about. That's what they might ask you. You need to go and define exactly for your different, you depend on your topic, what exactly the type of research you're doing. Which kind of research are you doing? Are you using qualitative data? Are you doing a qualitative research or quantitative research? Are you using, you can be mixed like this now. This one is mixed method. Mixed method means the person is using both qualitative, numeric. This is what it means by quantitative. The person is going to count. The person is going to ask and talk about counting. Let's this is for instance, amongst this number of people, how many of them have so and so. Qualitative means among this number of people, what is the effect of this thing amongst these people? So quality is just like quality of education now. If you say what's the quality of education in so and so's in, let's say, in a school. If you say what's the quality of education in a school, we're talking about what exactly, how is the impact, how does education in this school, does it make so and so person, can they speak English very well? When you talk of quantity, you now ask how many of them passed WAEC in English this year. That's where you talk about quantity. So it's just a very simple, but it can be quite technical for some people. So please know if you're using qualitative, quantitative. So I am aware, from experience, I've seen that most times qualitative data has to do with financials. Most people use more of, especially when you're doing anything that has to do with financials. I've noticed they use mostly qualitative. Quantitative now has to do with just social science most times. So it just depends on your topic though. But the best method I love using is mixed. So if I'm, let's say I'm doing this research now, I'm using mixed method for my analysis. I can use either the qualitative data and as well as the quantitative data to give me a rich research. So when I'm done, I can both types of data will form a good platform for me to make any kind of a conclusion on the work. So you have to find out your research design. That is number 6. And finally, the last part that people always used to have issues. People always have issues is talk about the instruments that you're using, instrument of data collection. Are you going to do it? That's where you now talk about, are you using primary and secondary data? Primary data simply means data that you are getting from people. That's you're using, let's say you're using qualitative data, but you're using secondary. If you're using qualitative data and you're using secondary, you're getting it from secondary sources, that simply means that you're going to get quality. You're going to get things that have to do with the variableness of a certain quality, but you're not going to ask people. I think I need to slow down and explain this again. Qualitative data does not have to do with numbers. It has to do with description. How fine is this person? How beautiful is this person? How handsome is he? You cannot use numbers to say this person is handsome in 100% or 200%. You can only use this person is as handsome, is very handsome, or is not handsome. That's quality. But when you now say how old is this person, that you can use number and say this person is 26 years old or 24. Then if you now say you want to use for your instrument that you're using for data collection, you are using primary data. If you are using primary now has to do with is you and somebody, you are going to collect the data from a human being. So if you say now you want to collect data on how handsome somebody is and you're using secondary data, you will not go and ask the person. You go online or go to something somebody has published on how handsome that person is. That's secondary data. Or if you say primary, you go to meet people and say, how handsome is this guy? If you're going to use qualitative now, they will now tell you the person is very handsome. Then if you're going to use quantitative method, they're now going to tell you that this person is 25% handsome. So please try and get these very, very key examples I'm using. I'm breaking it down so we can grab it and remember it on your defense day. Know whether you're using, make sure that you define whether you're using qualitative or quantitative or mixed method, and know if you're going to use either primary or secondary data to do your work. So from here now you can see remember this job, this thesis here is using mixed method. So it's using both qualitative and quantitative method, but all of them, they are getting it from primary data. So primary data, remember what I said, primary data is from human beings. Human beings means you're going to ask them questions either through questionnaires, interviews, KIIs. So this one now, they are using both focus group, they are using interviews, and they are also using questionnaires. So that is primary data. If let's say I want to use secondary data here, secondary data, I will now talk about, I will go online and go and do research on this topic and go and download data sets from different websites that are affiliated with this topic or that are authorities in this topic, then also get, and then I can now get the data on this. So that's the very, very simple analysis there. Quality has to do with anything that will not do with numbers. Quantity has to do with things that have to do with numbers, percentage, figures. Then primary data has to do with anything that has to do with human beings. You're going to meet human beings. Then secondary data has to do with anything that has to do with online, search online, download, do research that would not involve human beings. That is what you got to talk about secondary data. So finally, I think that should be the last. Your method of data analysis is just simply most times it's just what exactly you want to use. Are you using SPSS? Are you using Excel? So that one is not really a big deal. SPSS is a very popular software. Excel, are you using Python? Are you using, so that one is, I don't usually see that problem come up. But when you talk about your instrument, what exactly you're going to do. And finally, under the questionnaire, before I forget, your questionnaire should be divided into, if you're going to use questionnaire, your questionnaire should be divided into the number of research questions and the number of objectives you have. If you have research, if you have 5 research questions or 5 objectives, the sections in the objective should be 5, or you can make it 6 to add demographic information. Let me give an instance. If you're having objectives of study, and the objectives of study there are supposed to be, the objectives of study are 5 or 4. then your questionnaire sections, the sections of the questionnaire will have, I think the next week class, I'll have a full research so I can explain these things more with the full research. I did not add it for this class. I'm sorry about that. So I will do that more in the next week class. But essentially, you should know your questionnaire should have the breakdown of the questionnaire should be based on the objective you have. Then, in addition, you should have one more section, which is for demographic information, the age, the gender. That's where you ask the people that how old are you? What are you, male or female? What's like you're just going to get demographic information. So that just quickly, I think we're done with this class, but I'll give you a few minutes for us to ask questions. Please go ahead if you have questions before we can end the class.
Hello.
Okay, please go ahead, sir.
If you are, I believe that at the defense, when you are discussing the methodology,
Yes.
someone may ask you, why are you using qualitative or quantitative method? But there must be a justification for that. So how do you defend that?
Okay. All right. Okay. I think
Hello?
this should be. Yes. Hello.
Hello?
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
Please, I want to know what is the difference between analytical framework and conceptual framework. Is there any difference?
Is it theoretical framework, not analytical? Theoretical framework.
Theoretical is different. Like according to Professor Hirim, he taught us analytical, theoretical, empirical, and conceptual framework. And according to the tentative proposal method he gave us, that analytical
Yes.
framework is included, and conceptual
Analytical.
framework.
No. Wait. Okay. Let me answer the first question. Then I'll attend to you. If anybody has
Okay.
any other question, I will answer after this. Then you said something about I think somebody asked about what's defense. If they ask you what's the rationale behind giving, what exactly made you to choose what exactly made you to choose your quantitative method of doing it? It's simple. Your topic demands it. It's simple. Your topic demands it. Your variables in your topic demands that you use this exactly. Let me give an instance now. This is design of socially driven applications for enhancing drug abuse awareness and prevention among adolescents in selected urban and rural areas in Imo State. So first of all, without even asking myself any question, if I look at this topic, I'll divide it. Let me use this is the way I usually do it. Sorry, let me just do it. This is how I'll do it. I'll divide the topic into three. These are the three parts of this topic. So please, I hope, can we all see my screen so that I can explain
Yeah, I'm
this?
seeing it. I'm seeing.
Okay. All right. So you see, this is design of socially driven applications for enhancing drug awareness and prevention among adolescents in selected urban and rural areas in Imo
This
State.
is a topic.
Eh? You say what?
Sorry.
You say is what? Is
Please,
what?
I'm stopping now. Mute your mic now, please.
Please.
It's a long topic. It's not. If it's a long topic, it's normal. It's a normal topic. It's nothing wrong with it. All right. So first of all, is design of socially driven applications. Design of socially driven applications. So my question is simple: how do I get data for this topic? I've designed it. I've divided it into three. How do I get data? That's what I would do. How do I get data for this first part of this sentence? Socially driven applications. How do I get data for it? What do I do? Will I use like I said, quantitative way of getting it. Quantitative means I have to now say, okay, this application, the effect of it, does it have to do with numbers? Let me give an instance. Socially driven applications now are things that are applications that they are inspired by needs in society. Something like drug abuse, something like smoking. If you see an app now that has maybe somebody is a smoker, you can design an app that will help him to limit the drug use. That's called a socially driven application. So how best can I get data if I want to design an application like that? Immediately, I already know that I want something that has to do with quality. I'll have something that has to do with quality. I will explain why I will use quality for this one. I will use quality because anything that has to do with social driven, anything that is described by the society, is not numerical. It's not numerical. Socially driven applications is not numerical. It has to do with quality, quality of economy, quality of health, quality of this, quality of that. I already know that I'm using qualitative data for this first one. That's the first one. This is how my personal, what I do on my own. Then the enhancing drug awareness and prevention. Now, enhancing drug awareness and prevention that's where we now talk about quantitative. That's when I talk about how do I enhance what I'll ask myself question. If I'm using only enhancing drug awareness and prevention, amongst what? Amongst people. So I need to count those people. Do you understand? If you say design of socially driven applications typically, even the application on your phone, it has to do with fineness. Is it fine? Is it beautiful? Can I use it? There's nothing that has to do with numbers there. You have the WhatsApp you're using on your phone now. It has to do with quality. What's the quality of your WhatsApp? That is exactly the kind of data you need for this design of socially driven applications. So that's qualitative data. Then you now go to the second part of the sentence now. Enhancing drug awareness and prevention. Enhancing drug awareness and prevention amongst who? Amongst people. So I definitely need to count the number of people that are using drugs. I need to know how many people that are not using. So I will know which people are going to affect. They were talking about adolescents in selected rural areas in Imo State, Nigeria. So if we're talking about selected people, children in rural areas in Imo State, that one is quantitative. So let me give an instance now. Let's say there is nothing like this first part. Let's say my topic is just enhancing drug awareness and prevention among adolescents in selected urban and rural areas in Imo State. Let's say this is my topic. I don't need to be told. There's nothing that has to do with quality here. Yes, you can use qualitative data, but for me personally, I will use only quantitative data to do this. And also, I will also use primary data because it defines it here. Adolescents in selected. I can use primary or secondary depending. But this thing now, I'm going to use here from this now because I've noticed that the first variable here, this second one now, it has to do with quantity. So I'll use quantitative. Then also, this also defines why I will use primary or secondary data. Primary or secondary data is just based on availability of data. That's how you make choice on that one. You only choose whether you use primary data for a job or for your thesis if the number of research you can get on it is in terms of primary form is available. If it's not available online, I can get adequate research from the mouths of people from as an interview. So it's just that primary and secondary data is mostly dependent on the availability of data. Meanwhile, the qualitative and quantitative is dependent on the variables that you're using to work. So please, have I answered that question, sir?
It's okay.
Okay. So then for Ma, you said something about analytical framework, right? Yes, are we still here? You said something about analytical framework. Somebody said something, right? Okay, I'll answer that question. And honestly, I have not really analytical framework for me. I will not lie. I've not really written an analytical framework, and I cannot pretend that I'll say, okay, this is what it is. But from experience, I can only tell you that typically is a conceptual framework, theoretical framework. That's why I said there are different departments. So your supervisor can be from another department that does not do the normal research or that most people do. So the analytical framework most likely might be, I don't know. That's the truth. The truth is I don't know. I'll have to go back and do research on that one. But all my years of writing, I've not really encountered the analytical framework. But please, I want to throw it open to the class. If you know what analytical framework means, please, me too, I want to learn. Please go ahead and explain it to her so that she can get an answer. Please go ahead before we can close the class. Please go ahead, unmute your mic so that you can talk. Go ahead. Okay, so I'm guessing that most of us here also don't know that. So maybe you can chat me up. I can look at, maybe just do a bit of research and get back to you on that. But most times your chapter 2 is your conceptual review, your theoretical review, conceptual framework, empirical review, research gap. Then other people now start talking about the mathematics. Okay. Okay, somebody has sent the meaning of analytical framework here. So I'm just going to say, read it out. It says here that analytical framework is a structured approach or a set of concepts, tools, and methods used to analyze problem, identify key factors, solve problem, or make decisions. It provides a systematic way to organize, interpret, and evaluate data, guiding the process of understanding. I guess this is not in general. This is not general because I know most schools don't actually require analytical framework. This might be mathematics. I'm guessing it's something that's doing mathematics and the field of STEM, maybe STEM, all these STEM students, engineering and mathematics. So, but if he demands that, you let me know, I can put you through and make a bit of research for that. So aside that, please, do we have any other questions before we can end the class? Oh, sorry, please, for the noise. They were watching the Chelsea match. So many people were making noise here. I apologize for the noise if the class was noisy. So do we have any other questions before we can call it a day? Okay.
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
my own is, I think, good evening once more. I'm
Good
Mrs.
evening.
Sorisopo. Please, my this thing is in the area you said about secondary data. I think
Yes.
secondary data, I know that you can Google and get textbook from there, so that most of us can get help. You can get secondary data from textbook, from journals, magazine, newspaper, and all the rest of them. So
Yes,
far,
yes.
it is not. It is not first class, or but you are not getting it directly from those people. It's already something that has been written. So
Yes.
it cannot be only Google, so that some of us will not, when they see textbook or magazine or journal, they'll be a little bit confused. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for that addition. Yes, just she's very right. She's right. You can get it from textbooks, journals, so far as you can reference them properly in the work. So do we have any other comments? Is there any other contributions? Then by the way, please, I hope we know, I think for the PG students here, we are about rounding up. I'm aware that so many of us are about rounding up with our programs. So please, I'll encourage you to please, if you have not started your proposal, if you have not started anything, please start it now. If you need help, reach out to me. Even if right now you want to do it yourself or something, please start it. If you need help, just advice on how to start, just let me know. I can help you, at least give you a start. Even if you really want to insist on doing it yourself, no problem. But the main thing is the time is now, please, so that other people will not leave you behind. If you have any issues, you can send me a message on my WhatsApp number on the group. Just send me a message. As I'm the admin on the group, that I need help concerning this. So I will not want as we are 19 here in this class, I want everyone here. The reason why we take time to teach all this is not because we don't have other things doing, but because we value everybody in this class, and we know that we want at the end of this both your MSc and your PGD, that you should come out in flying colors so that you can follow the rest of your mates and graduate. So please, anything that is stopping you right now, you don't have time or you're confused, do not hesitate. Just go ahead, reach out, and somebody will help. So quickly before we go, any other contributions before the vote of thanks, and then we can be done with the class tonight. Okay. All right. So I take it that this is a day on the class. So please, I want to thank you very much. I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Sir Udo. I want to thank you. I don't know, Isa Oma, Getan, Duma, Amadi. I want to thank you, Judith Ugochukwu, Ada Collins, Oke Dixon, Grace Onyebule, Ifoma Lambo. I want to thank everybody else. I want to thank, I'm just giving you, I want to thank Chris Jaja, Emiri Samuel. I want to thank Okora Patience in Kiri, Ugochukwu Okweribe. I want to thank Obioma Marachi. I want to thank Mary Ann Wakwe. Thank you so much for being here. So we are preparing for the defense proposal. So I don't want on that day you'll be confused. So that's why we are doing it little by little. We'll hold a full defense class very soon before your proposal defense. That one will be with a full. I'm trying to reach out to one of our CESPES lecturers here to be here on the class with us, so that he will actually do it as it will be a virtual proposal defense. We will defend it the way we do it on that day. So I'm getting ready for it already. I'm making my contacts so that we can do it. When you're going for your defense, it will be very easy for every one of us. So I want to say thank you very much to every one of us. Please share the link to everybody that you know that is also doing this proposal. And by this time, same station next week, we'll see again for a class like this. Thank you very much.